Well, good morning, everyone. And how are we today? Leo here, and welcome to the channel. We have a very unusual story again, as usual, for you guys today. I am out today. I am in a little community of Fairview, West Virginia. And we've come out here to tell you guys a story and bring back an old memory from long ago, and someone who's kind of been forgotten and left by the wayside. You know how that is. We don't really like that kind of thing. We tend to, tell the stories and document the graves and take pictures and, update things on Find a Grave and, try to leave a wide paper trail so that if family ever does come to look for some of these people, some of these old historic sites or whatever the case may be, like I said, we try to leave a nice wide paper trail. But we've come down here to tell you guys a story that happened right here in Fairview, and we're going to head out here in a little while on one of our classic searches to go see if we can't find someone. But I guess we need to back up, though, before we get to doing that. We need to start off at step 1 before we get to step 6. But anyway, here in Fairview, on April 20th in 1965, what began as a simple neighborhood dispute ended in one of the area's most horrific murders to date. The victim was a 27-year-old named Elizabeth Geraldine Dotson Chambers. Morning time. She was a wife, a mother of 2 young children, and the wife of Williamson High School art teacher Robert Chambers. Geraldine, as she liked to be called, and her family lived in a garage apartment here in Fairview behind the home of Floyd Thurston. According to the old records, the property sat between the Tug River and U.S. Route 52 west of downtown Williamson in Fairview. Busy bus morning, isn't it? We did our best to try to find the exact address, but within 50 yards or so we'll have to do this time. That afternoon, 21-year-old Marine Carl David Whitaker was home on leave. Now, Carl was well known around Williamson. He was a 1963 graduate of Williamson High School. He played football and baseball, sang in the school choir, belonged to the principal's cabinet, and participated in several other school activities, so he was very well known. Friends described him as a model young man. He had recently returned home from duty abroad aboard the aircraft carrier USS Intrepid, where he served as part of the ship's security detail. He had even appeared in photographs taken aboard the Intrepid during the recovery of astronauts Gus Grissom and John Young after their famous Gemini 3 spaceflight. His family was extremely proud of him and his accomplishments, and he was scheduled to return to active military duty the very next day. Now, according to investigators, Carl was mowing grass at the Thurston property when Geraldine complained that the noisy lawnmower was waking her 2 sleeping children, Todd, who was 21 months old, and Mark, who was just 7 months old. The disagreement over the lawnmower noise escalated quickly. Police later said that Carl became angry and followed Geraldine into her apartment. The attack reportedly began in the kitchen before moving into the bedroom. There, Geraldine was stabbed and slashed at least 50 times across her face, neck, chest, and arms. When her husband, Robert, returned home with his mother, Virginia Chambers, they discovered Geraldine's partially clothed body lying in the bedroom. Robert, who was only 30 years old, had been teaching an art class at Williamson High School when his young wife was murdered here. Sheriff Steve Adkins of Mingo County and State Police Corporal C.A. Berkeley immediately began an investigation. Carl returned to the scene, but investigators quickly noted fresh scratches on his neck. When questioned about it, he claimed that the scratches had been caused by briars while mowing the lawn. But the explanation didn't satisfy the investigators. A search warrant was obtained for the clothing Carl had worn while cutting the grass. Although the clothes had reportedly been washed, investigators found what appeared to be blood inside the collar. Neighbors also provided damaging statements. Floyd himself said that Carl had been friends with his daughter, Sadie Thurston, and may have even been dating her, with several reports at the time saying that the two were unofficially engaged to be married. Sadie later told investigators that Carl had admitted to her about killing Geraldine. Now, Floyd said that he got home around 4 o'clock after a ball game. Floyd questioned him about the scratches on his neck, and Carl again claimed they were from briars while he was mowing the lawn. Floyd later said that the scratches looked deep, but because Carl had always been considered such a responsible and respectable young man, that he didn't even suspect him of murder at the time. Police arrested Carl that evening on the porch of the Thurston home. During questioning, investigators said that he signed a 5-page handwritten confession. Police never released that statement publicly, though. An autopsy later determined Geraldine had died from massive internal bleeding caused by multiple stab wounds. Dr. Russell A. Salton, Chief of Staff at Williamson Memorial, reported that several of the knife wounds had penetrated her heart and both lungs. In all, police said she had been stabbed or slashed at least 50 times across her face, neck, chest, and arms. Dr. Salton also stated that there was no evidence of any assault other than the brutal stabbing attack itself. Because of concerns for his safety and the so-called poor condition of the Mingo County Jail, though no one else really got that luxury to say that a jail wasn't up to their standards. But anyway, Carl was transferred under a heavy guard to the Wayne County Jail in Wayne, West Virginia. News of the murders and the arrest spread across the community like a wildfire. Williamson doesn't have things like that happen very often, much less violence on an extreme level like that. Just days earlier, newspapers had bragged on Carl as a model Marine and as a role model. His parents visited him in jail and said that their son prayed constantly and believed that God had forgiven him. His mother insisted the family still loved him and believed there had to be some other explanation for what had happened. She said that Carl felt that he had disgraced the family name. The family also revealed several troubling events that had occurred just before the murder happened. Earlier that year, while hitchhiking home on leave in Logan County, Carl had been robbed and severely beaten. On January 29th, he was treated at the Williamson Memorial Hospital for deep wrist cuts, severe headaches, and emotional problems. His parents believed that the assault on Carl had changed him somehow. On May 3rd in 1965, the Mingo County grand jury formally indicted Carl for murder. As the trial opened in September, the case hit an unexpected delay. Carl appeared in court, but about an hour into the proceedings, Judge F. Morton Wagner halted the trial after discovering that there were not enough qualified jurors to hear the case. Authorities had summoned 60 prospective jurors, but only 45 could be located. Of those, just 36 appeared in the courtroom, and after 13 were excused, only 23 qualified jurors remained, from which a jury could be selected. Judge Wagner ordered the county to immediately draw 60 additional names that afternoon, and the trial was postponed until the following morning. Reports noted that Carl appeared pale after his stay behind bars. He had been transferred back to Williamson from the Wayne County Jail the Sunday night before the trial. Judge Wagner was presiding over the case because Mingo County Circuit Judge Charles W. Ferguson had disqualified himself. Once the trial resumed, the defense didn't even deny that Carl had killed Geraldine. Instead, attorney Zane Gray Staker argued that Carl had been legally insane at the time of the attack. The defense called Dr. Russell Myers, chief of neurosurgery and neurology at the Appalachian Regional Hospital in South Williamson, Kentucky. Dr. Myers testified that Carl suffered from psychomotor epilepsy, which is a very rare brain disorder. According to his testimony, Carl explained that he experienced an epileptic episode during the killing and believed that he was watching someone else commit the crime, almost as if he were watching TV. Dr. Myers told the jury that although Carl knew, at least in part, what he was doing, he believed that the repeated stabbing was characteristic of someone experiencing this rare neurological condition. The prosecution strongly challenged that claim, to put it lightly. Special Prosecutor Francis H. Burke, assisting Mingo County Prosecutor Mark Russell, argued that there had been zero history of mental illness before the murder. Burke told the jury that none of the evidence supported a legal insanity defense, and reminded jurors that no one had ever heard of Carl suffering from mental problems until after Geraldine had been brutally attacked and killed. After hearing days of testimony, closing arguments focused almost entirely on one single question. Was Carl legally responsible for his actions, or had a rare brain disorder temporarily robbed him of the ability to comprehend what he was doing? The murder that began over the sound of a lawnmower had become one of the most closely watched and publicized criminal trials in West Virginia history. Today, we're going to try to find Geraldine's grave and add it to Find a Grave listings alongside her other family members. The problem is that the only lead that we found She was buried in her family's cemetery in Phelps, Kentucky. That becomes very confusing because her parents and one of her siblings are buried in Pikeville, Kentucky. While researching the family, we did notice that one of Geraldine's sisters is buried in Phelps. That may be the clue that we've been looking for. So that's where our search will take us first. So I guess that is what I'm looking for, to go find her sister's grave and see if Geraldine is actually next to her. But like I said, it's just such a terrible story, such a tragic story, you know. Like I said, whole families devastated and destroyed over the sound of a lawnmower. And go head out and see if we can't locate this old graveyard and see if we can't find Geraldine's grave. Well, I have arrived. I've made it to Phelps, Kentucky, not the grave site. I've arrived here in Phelps at where we believe the grave is, somewhere back up on this mountain. I'm just past the school here in Phelps. You can see it. The school is right down there. And I actually have some family. Mom is buried right up here, right up Callaway. A little holler called Callaway. So I'm not that far from my mom's grave. But this is apparently the one that we're looking for, hopefully. Well, that figures. Climb the hill. It's the wrong cemetery. Find a grave listing is incorrect again. So this is supposed to be a completely different cemetery, has directions to the other cemetery, but when you click on the GPS link, it brings you right here. I just double checked my information, checked the sources, pulled it up, GPS, take me there. It immediately said, arrived. You've arrived. You're there. This ain't there. This is not the right place. The one I'm looking for has a chain link fence around it. That's where her sister, Alma's at. So that's why we were thinking Geraldine. I got to find Alma. But I did notice this is the right family. You know, it's Dotsons and, you know, it's the same family. But the two graves that we're looking for are not here. So I know where another one is. Right down just below the school. I'm just above the school, so I'm thinking they might have gotten the two confused. Whoever did the listing for Find a Grave may just have the two cemeteries confused. So we're going to go find out. I'll go check the other one as well and see if maybe they're down there. But I guess for now, I need to head back out, go back down the hill again, and head down to the other cemetery, and hopefully we'll have better luck down there. But like I said, even if I can't find Geraldine's grave today, like I said, we can at the very least, you know, tell her story and bring her memory back and put her story back together, so that she's not just forgotten and lost forever. And it's looking like she might be. It's just awful, ain't it? You know, murdered at a young age, violently like that. A young mother, 27 years old. And, you know, this just kind of adds insult to injury. Okay, let's go continue the search. Not the first time I've had to wing it, you know. Heather and I have been talking. I still have cell service up here. So we've been talking, chatting back and forth, you know, trying to iron out exactly what's going on here. The common consensus between the two of us, I don't know. Well, believe it or not, this is the cemetery below the school. Now, while I went out just a second ago and went and kind of, you know, just walked down through here and took a look, I do not believe this is the right one. But I did find some very interesting things. So you can see here's an old stone laying down. And look at this. This is a cemetery, guys. Look here. Just look at this stuff. You can see old stones right here. M something, can't make it out, but look at here. I did find something very interesting. Look at this. John and Polly were pioneer settlers in the Peter Creek area, and the Wolfords in this area are their descendants. Original settler families, guys. OG hillbillies. The original hillbillies. Look what I just happened to stumble across out here looking for this grave. Mary Polly Charles, 1791 to 1875, and John Sr., 1787 to 1880. This is not the one we're looking for. Well, I do believe I'm up to plan C or plan D at this point. I'm not really sure. Turns out I was stopped and talked to a gentleman at that last cemetery, the really old one, overgrown one, and he was telling me that that was the oldest cemetery in Pike County, and that schools come up there sometimes and bring children up there to show them the old historic graves and tell them the stories. And he was telling me about how those were the original settlers to the area. And I thought that was cool, you know, that someone knew that, you know, a local actually knew, you know, things about that place. But anyway, we're still on the search, and I've stopped at Jones and West Funeral Home, about 2 miles from the area that in question. We'll just say that, the area in question. I figure if anybody would know, might have a little bit of information about this Saunders grave, Saunders Cemetery, family cemetery, it would probably be the funeral home. Well, I am up to plan F at this point. We've progressed past plans A, B, C, D, and E. The funeral home was a washout. There was no one there. I knocked on all 3 doors, even around back. Didn't find anybody. Stopped here. They're working on a Christian community center right here, doing a little bit of construction, doing some building. I happened to stop. Hey, you know, you guys mind if I ask you some questions? I'm looking for something. Turns out the guy that was standing there was my mom's first cousin, Junior Dotson. So yeah, I knew one of them. And yeah, hey Leo, what you looking for? So I think I have a line on it. They said go up past, back up the holler. I got to go down this way, back up into the holler where I was at earlier, past the fire department. And I'm looking for an old dirt road on the right. It turns out that the guy that I was spoken to, guess what his name was? Sanders. He called his grandmother, and she told him on speakerphone, she told us both, she said, that's the only one I know of. So we're headed that way now. I'm trying, Geraldine. I'm trying my best. The search continues. Okay, this is the place that I was told to go to. Go up past the fire department. You'll see the house with the big circular driveway. There's a white A-frame right there, and an old house back in the corner that's fallen in. That old house back in the corner was the original Sanders homestead. That's what Mr. Sanders told me. So he said, you got a dirt road. He said, it's in good shape now. He said, you can drive up it. But that's the original homestead right over there. The tin roof on it. Look at that. But according to him, this is the way to the Sanders. I keep saying Saunders, but it's Sanders graveyard. Cemetery, excuse me. Graveyard's at a church. But we shall see. He said it goes back that ways, a little ways. He said, but you'll see it. There we go. Should be a chain link fence with the name Saunders. Saunders Family Cemetery. Look at that. Sanders. See, I did it again. It's not Saunders, it's Sanders. Sanders Family Cemetery. Chain link fence. This looks like the place, unless the records are wrong again. That is entirely possible, that she is not at any of these cemeteries and is actually in Phelps, Kentucky, or Pikeville, Kentucky, where some of the other family is. One way to find out. Get out here and go take a look. Well, never let it be said that Leo isn't stubborn. And we are looking for a black circular stone, would be the Sister Alma. Well, let's go take a look. Well, guess what? It took a lot of effort. It took a lot of running. It took a lot of effort. But we finally found Alma Jo Warren. Now, her sister Geraldine apparently does not have a headstone, but she is somewhere within your view is the grave that we've came all this way to look for. And unfortunately, this is about as close as we're going to be able to get, because she doesn't have a stone. But she is said to be buried next to her sister, Alma Jo Warren. She's buried in the same place. And we found Alma Jo's stone. I knew she had one. The black round one was the one that I've been looking for all day long. And talked to a lot of people, been to a lot of places, found a lot of interesting things along the way too. But we did find the graveyard eventually. It took a while, but we eventually found it. Somewhere in this graveyard lies Geraldine, the young 27-year-old mother who was murdered over lawnmower noise. But anyway, guys, keep these people in your prayers. I know they've been gone for a long time, but the good thing about it, the only good thing, the only silver lining that comes out of this is that, like I said earlier, Geraldine's story has been told. You know, she's no longer just a lost little piece of history that was relegated to a few little newspaper clippings. You know, we've now examined it and looked it over and went to the places, told you guys the story, and brought you out here to see this place. I guess we've done just about all we can do here today. Like I said earlier, you know, you can't bring her back to her family. You can't turn back the clock. You can't make things come out differently. You can't change anything in the past. It's just set in stone, like these headstones are. The past is just as solid as every one of these, probably more so. These can be changed. But anyway, guys, I guess until the next episode, until the next story, until the next mystery, we'll see you guys later. This is Leo with the Hillbilly Files. Leo out.